Welcome, everyone. My name is Brian Balicki, your host of the podcast, The Juice is Worth the Squeeze. Embrace it. This podcast is intended for type 1 diabetics, but I invite all who've taken the time to stop by to listen and stay for a bit. I think you'll find your time and curiosity will be well spent. During my audio comments today, you'll see a collage of pictures of other type 1 diabetics like myself. They represent well-known and perhaps not so well-known celebrities. They come from many fields: sports, entertainment, law, literature, and others. In my lifetime, some have been an inspiration to me, not because they've managed their condition as long as I have, but more so because they've achieved remarkable success in their field in spite of being type 1. There's one celebrity shown in the collage, however, who is not type 1. He was an inspiration to me when I met him almost 25 years ago. His name is Gordie Howe, perhaps one of the greatest professional hockey players ever up until the late 1980s, 1990s. He was in his early 60s when I met him on the ice one night in an adult recreational hockey league practice in a suburban ice rink outside Washington, D.C. Yes, he suited up, hung around with the guys for a bit at practice that night, and showed what was possible for an active, fit man in his early 60s could do with a hockey stick and a puck. I was always inspired by his skills, watching him play in his younger days against my hometown hockey team growing up, my own Chicago Blackhawks. But I've never forgotten what I and others witnessed that night. I write about it in an upcoming book. The dexterity of an elderly man on ice skates now, in his early 60s, still with amazing visual acuity, dexterity with his hands and lower limbs. These are common vulnerabilities to many type 1s, like me in my later years. For me as a type 1, I've always appreciated these skills. I've also wondered if I would be able to maintain some measure of my own physical dexterities as I age. That night, we saw him take a few shots at the goalie net. It revealed how great an athlete he must have been when he was younger. It even seemed that night he still would be able to step on the ice somewhere and play again. With little doubt, he could probably still entertain an audience with his skills because he was older, and he had competed successfully against Father Time, who had not yet been able to degrade his considerable hockey skills. That night, he certainly wowed a small audience of us ragtag adult hockey players. The other type 1s from the collage of pictures feature football players like Jay Cutler, Mark Andrews, tennis players like Arthur Ashe, Billie Jean King, Bobby Clark, another professional Hall of Fame hockey player, professionals like Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor, actors like James Earl Jones, Halle Berry, and Sharon Stone. I can't say how long each of these has managed their diabetes. Judging by their ages, though, and I might be wrong, I don't think they've done it as long as I have. My podcast is about my lifetime and lessons I've learned as a 71-year-old type 1 insulin-dependent diabetic. I've been this for more than 55 years. In my 56th year post-diagnosis, I'm very healthy and active. I believe my lifetime as a type 1 diabetic is relevant to many other diabetics and everyday people who've made their personal health a lifelong priority. Why am I hosting this podcast? I've been very lucky to avoid the common diabetic hospitalizations and serious complications faced by diabetics who've not yet been as successful or as lucky as I've been in managing their condition. Believe me when I say I count my lucky stars every day. To be clear, I don't mean to boast here. Rather, I say this to make a point. That point is the success I've enjoyed and what other type 1 and type 2 diabetics have achieved in managing themselves is the result of many personal choices made over a lifetime. What does this mean? It means diabetics face decisions every day. How you accept these decisions, how you handle them, act on them, plays a crucial role in determining your own success, your own life story, your own health in later years. Honestly, I don't discount that luck has played some role in my life as type 1, but the success I've enjoyed in managing my own condition is only partly rooted in luck. To the contrary, my life story proves you can manage type 1 diabetes less than perfectly over a lifetime. I emphasize less than perfectly here, and still enjoy remarkable health later in life. This is essential to realize when you are young and are type 1. When I was 16, no one could explain to me in real terms what life I might expect to have after 55 years as a type 1 diabetic. This podcast is designed to provide both hope and purpose to type 1s who either may be struggling or may be just simply frustrated in their efforts to manage themselves. I also launched this podcast to set some reasonable expectations for diabetics. In your lifelong journey through the School of Diabetic Hard Knocks, I offer this comment, very important, please listen. You do get extra points for effort, for trying, even if you don't perfectly manage yourself along your lifelong journey. I often say, quote, don't let pursuit of perfect control of your blood glucose levels come at the expense of sacrificing reasonable control. From my own personal experiences, I can confidently say, if you have reasonable control, you will have pretty remarkable personal health later in your life, and you will avoid the needless stress and risks of hypoglycemia that come from pushing too hard or too often to be perfectly controlled. I offer my own 142, 82, and 2 rule as a guide along this journey. Lately, I've discussed it with my own healthcare team, and it seems to make some sense. By following the rule, it means you will reduce your frustration if you happen to miss your daily targets of glucose control. This will definitely be true if you simply are comparing yourself against the old daily standard of 90 to 120 milligrams of blood glucose. Personally, this was a tough standard for me to meet consistently. I know this because I tried for 55 plus years, and rarely did I meet it. My average daily glucose today is in the 140s, not 90 to 120. Yet at age 71, I'm in pretty decent health. My rule is also simpler. I believe it's more realistic and a more easily measurable goal for all type 1s to shoot for. With the right tools at your fingertips, you can chart your own progress in managing type 1. If you do reach it, you'll see your own A1C will settle at or near 6.0. This would be an outstanding achievement for any type 1. It was for me, and it certainly gets you below 7.0, the more commonly talked about goal for diabetes management, which we all know is good control these days. And it does so without any risk to low blood sugar readings, which we also know is something to avoid as type 1s. Just as a hint, the number 2 in my own 142, 82, and 2 rule means low blood sugar never occurs more than 2% of your total time in any 90-day period. That is when your blood sugar falls below 70. Recently, I've been able to hit this goal with fewer, not more, episodes of low blood sugar. But remember, it's only a goal. Even if you miss it, you will still reap health benefits because you tried. And because you did try, you'll feel better. And maybe you'll even feel less frustrated about managing yourself. Most importantly, you'll probably see many risks to the side effects of uncontrolled diabetes. They will also improve. Things like declining eyesight, loss of sensation in your limbs, fingers, and toes, and even kidney function. My life with type 1 diabetes certainly has proven this is a useful rule to follow, and luckily, I've not had to deal with any of the risks that I've mentioned above. In future podcasts, I'll talk more about this. As for upcoming episodes, I plan to discuss 10 priorities that have shaped my experience as a type 1. Most of these priorities have become clearer to me over the past 10 to 15 years. To show how my experience is relatable to others, I'll discuss more details of my own story generally and these 10 priorities in particular. There are several noteworthy parts to them. I hesitate to say they're unique, but they have shaped the positive results I've enjoyed in managing type 1 for 55 plus years. Based on my own research, I haven't seen these priorities stated as clearly or by anyone with the practical everyday experience that I've had. During my lifetime, I've not been a professional Hall of Fame athlete, a prize-winning Nobel scientist, nor an accomplished artist. None of these circumstances are part of my life story. Yet I have been able to combine some pretty remarkable personal events in my lifetime that parallels a 45-year public health career leading up to retirement in extremely good health. My latest visit to my personal physician offers some context here. At the end of my recent 30-minute visit, it ended with him saying to me, and I quote, "Get out of here. You're too healthy to be here." In upcoming episodes, I believe all diabetics will find something that touches a thread of their own experience. I plan to chat about the origins of my type 1, some daily challenges, some misconceptions I've confronted, and lapses in control that I've been able to overcome. I'll explain more details of my golden rule for lifetime management as a type 1, the 42, 82, and 2 rule. I also share some near misses that almost led me to being hospitalized. In hindsight, these were probably moments where luck did play some part in avoiding hospitalization, but they were not part of any extended pattern of personal mismanagement or episodes when I was intentionally reckless. I know these incidents can occur more commonly among diabetics who may be struggling psychologically or emotionally to manage themselves. In my cases, they occurred during daytime and workday hours. Yet I think these episodes and others are important to point out for setting expectations about what any type 1 diabetic may face in their own life. This is the squeeze part of my podcast. As for the juice, the results of embracing the squeeze, I'll also talk about special, what I call Kodak moments, special episodes over a lifetime, some tips and priorities for achieving a healthier quality life through my senior years. I'm lucky to say there have been many such moments, and only because I accepted the squeeze and made them into opportunities. I feel my 10 priorities can be woven into anyone's diabetic experience. I strongly recommend you listen, consider them, and send feedback to me if you like. Hopefully, you'll be able to discuss them first with your own healthcare provider and possibly put them into practice. If this happens, try them, test them, and then adapt them to your own experience. Every human being is different, and I know this is true for type 1 diabetics. But trust me when I say that priorities can be universal. Most importantly, track how your own progress matches up to certain indicators that I've monitored for the last 15 years of my life. Yes, I've been able to track these only for the most recent 15 years of a total lifetime of 55 years living with type 1. By focusing on your progress on this group of simple indicators, I believe you can enjoy a similar quality of life as I have. I must add something here, though, an important caveat. Don't stress over this. Don't stress if you're not consistently able to meet your daily or any other goals you've created to manage your glucose levels. I and my lifetime ophthalmologist, interesting, who is also a type 1, discussed this simple observation recently during one of my regular checkups. We agreed how surprising it is that stress alone can spike blood sugars. We've known this for a long time, how bad stress is to anyone's overall health, Little did we realize, however, it works against managing type 1. It can make an already tough challenge even tougher if you allow it to. Stress is something we, as type 1s, have control over. It's one of those things, as I said earlier, if you acknowledge it, manage it, and take steps to avert it, you can manage its impact on your life. In closing, I hope this podcast can become more of a dialogue in the future. I look forward to hearing about life stories of other type 1s, of whatever length they may be, and certainly those beginning their journey. When I say this, it brings to mind a quote from one of the most renowned justices of our own U.S. Supreme Court, Thurgood Marshall. I believe it to be true. He once said something like this: "The success you achieve in your life should not be measured by where you end up, but by where you start from to some end result." This certainly applies to managing type 1 diabetes. It is a journey, and hopefully a long, rewarding one for all. Hopefully this podcast can help diabetics no matter what their type is, even pre-diabetics. I believe the podcast will help all listeners with making good personal health decisions throughout their lifetime to achieve a healthy, rewarding lifestyle throughout adult and retirement years. With the right tools, this is possible no matter when you start your T1D journey in your lifetime, but don't delay. Make every day count. I'm confident the juice will be worth the squeeze if you embrace it. Finally, if you have any comments, questions, or other feedback you'd like to share about this podcast, I definitely welcome it. Please visit my podcast survey at fanlist.com/the juice. Let me repeat that. fanlist.com/the juice. Also, keep a lookout for an upcoming book on my life as a type 1 diabetic of the same title as this podcast. Thank you for your time. Signing off for now. Cheerfully, Brian Balicki. Have a great day.